Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville Nate and Big Joe coming here on a Tuesday night, special night, to talk to you about the world of sports and football in particular as we get ready to go through what's going on in the world of sports. And I want to start out a little bit of treading into man coverage a little bit tonight. College football, college basketball. We'll get to Juwan Howard in a minute. Your assessment of the NCAA not putting in a playoff?
We talked about that on Sunday, and we asked Big Ten analyst Stanley Jackson, in case any of y'all, shameless plug, in case any of y'all missed man coverage, please go to YouTube and download the podcast or Twitter or Facebook or whatever, but look up man coverage because we had a really good show with Stanley Jackson, the former quarterback of the Ohio State Buckeyes and now Big Ten analyst on the Big Ten Network. And, we asked him about it. And I kind of agree with him. I think 12 might be a little bit too much. I'm not sure there's 12 teams that really can compete for a national championship. I don't – there weren't this year. And I don't think there are very many years or there haven't been many of the years here. But I would like to see it expanded just personally, because I'm the bowl season to me is just kind of a joke now. I think it's a joke. I have trouble. I watch the games because I talk about them on this show and I talk about them on man coverage, and I don't like talking about things that I haven't watched and that I don't know anything about. So I do watch a lot of them, but it's hard for me because a lot of them were horrible. There were some good games mixed in there. I liked the Tennessee-Purdue game. It was a great game. The Michigan State-Pittsburgh game was a pretty good game mixed in there. But all in all, it's become ridiculous. And I really would have liked to see it expanded at least to 8. I think that 8 is a good number. I think 8 would have been easy to do. And I think that there's really no reason not to expand it to 8, in my opinion.
I totally agree. And I mean, the bowls are, I used to love the bowl season. I'd be watching it through December to New Year's Day, when it used to start with like the Sun Bowl on the second week of December. It was great. And I think, they've got to do something because these players drop out and don't play in the bowls anymore because there's no reason for them to play in it. So it's like, you're half the reason you're watching. I mean, we spoke about it at length, how disgusting it was watching Kenny Pickett not play.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then Pittsburgh shouldn't even be there. Pittsburgh should just withdrawn and gone home because they had no chance winning. They were up against it with a third string quarterback or a second string quarterback that never plays.
Well, yeah, and the second string quarterback got hurt in the first quarter.
Right.
So they were playing their third string quarterback, in crunch time, pretty much for the whole game. And I was just sitting there watching it. It was making me sick because I'm like, Kenny Pickett, if he was playing, Pittsburgh could easily win this game or potentially definitely could win this game. And then, it bothered me too. I love Chris Olave. I will always love Chris Olave. And he's one of the greatest, maybe the greatest receiver ever to go to Ohio State, which is saying something. But it bothered me that he got to travel to the Rose Bowl. He got to get the gift bag. He got to practice all week, but then he didn't play.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not right. That's not right.
I mean, they have to first be honest with themselves, the NCAA, and realize this is going on. We're all watching it. We all know what's going on. And you're only hurting yourself. Because the fact is, more and more people don't watch unless you graduated from that university. I mean, like I said, I used to watch every bowl game I could watch. Now I don't watch any. I watch the championships, and with the NFL constantly expanding, you don't need to, watch a college game and not get your football junkie fixed. So I think definitely they got to expand to 8. 12 wouldn't have bothered me that much because it's still inclusive. And like you said, though, how many teams really have a chance? Not many, but that's just the reality of college football. I mean, if you look at it, between the top 5 programs in the nation, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, just off the top of my head to name a few, and the rest of Ohio State, the rest of college football, there's a big chasm. I mean, when those teams want to play, I mean, there's not a lot of teams that can keep up with them. So,
right,
I mean,
right. And I agree with that. But I mean, if you go 8 deep, we're talking Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Ohio State, Baylor, Cincinnati, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia. All 8 of those teams could compete for the national championship, and all of that would be must-see TV. So yeah. I think expansion to 8 would be wonderful. I think they should do it. I think they need to do it. Why they're putting it off, I think, is just because they've got these revenue streams already in place. I don't know if it's laziness. I don't know if it's greed. I don't know if it's both. But to put it off and to do nothing up until 2024, I think is doing a disservice to college football.
And then the second thing, Juwan Howard, I understand. Anybody who understands that it is a difficult thing to address and be candid and be journalistic about it. But the way it was covered after the fight that happened in Wisconsin where, we'll show you the blurb and then we'll go away from it. We're not going to really get into it because it doesn't really matter, is ridiculous because it does matter. It was a big thing. That's a huge program in Michigan. He's a high-profile coach after being his NBA career, coming back to as an alumnus. And this is not the first time he's almost got into it, or he almost got into it with the Maryland coach. And this is this time he actually swung. Yeah, it was open-handed, but he made contact. And I'm not so sure Juwan Howard's celebrity status didn't protrude him from being or prevent him from being fired. Most coaches would have been.
What are we teaching the players? I mean, what are we teaching the kids if we allow the coach to do this? And I heard his unapologetic response to it where he was like, I didn't like how they were calling timeouts at the end of the game when they're up by 19.
Indiana. I found out he did it to Indiana earlier this year.
Well, yeah, and they were trying to get kids in the game that don't ever get to play. They weren't trying to run the score up.
At home.
They weren't trying to rub their faces in it. They were trying to put kids in the game that don't ever get to play.
At home.
How is that a bad thing?
And it was at home. It was at Cole. It wasn't on the road. It wasn't in front of Michigan. It was in Wisconsin. So, yeah, you get those kids in the game. The guys who practice all year long and never get to play. So, I mean, the thing is that, this is why this is the reason, and I'm not trying to rationalize. I'm not trying to equivocate and say I know this. But every time you hear about these high-profile alumnus, former athletes, and things like that going, why can't I get a job? Why? Because when these kind of things go on, it's hard for the school to do what they got to do to punish you when you do something like this, because you're so high profile, and because it's gonna rock the boat, and because people are gonna say, well, it's something that they'll make it into a race issue, they'll make it into this issue, they'll make it into that issue. That was a right-wrong issue. Black, white, indifferent, yellow, green, Martian, whoever threw the punch should have been suspended, and suspended for the year.
Yeah, I just think suspending, not only did he, punch the guy or attempt to punch the guy and slap him or whatever, he made contact with the other team's coach, but then the fight broke out. And one of the other Wisconsin staff members got hit in the face and had to go to the hospital. And it's like that you got to be held accountable, man. I mean, that.
How do you control your people when you're in the middle of it?
Yeah, when you're starting it, when you're the guy that is supposed to be in charge, and you're the individual who the rest of the team, not only players but coaches and staff members and trainers, are all supposed to be looking up to, and you're starting fights. That is just that is completely the wrong look, and they should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, we're suspending them until they and I love how they try and use the words to make it more than it is. We're suspending him for the rest of the year. Yeah, there's 4 games left.
Yeah.
4 or 5 games left. I mean, it's February 22nd. I mean, the season's pretty much over. Who the hell cares? The punishment definitely doesn't fit the crime, and it's like you said, not the first time that he's done this. Juwan Howard's always been kind of a hothead, and it was not a good look.
No, it was not a good look at all. And I tell you, it was like, and like I said, yeah, what you just brought up was a good point. That's like the kid whose father takes away his car on Wednesday, but he can use it the rest of the week. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, or like, we're going to take your cell phone away for the rest of the night, and it's like midnight.
Yeah,
exactly.
And
It's just, that's just wrong. And, I just was kind of, I don't know, it kind of made me nauseous that's what we're doing. We're going to suspend him for a couple of nights and then let him coach in the tournament, which is what really matters. I mean, they're already going to be, they're a bubble team, so they're probably going to make the tournament. And now he gets to coach in the tournament, gets to coach in the Big Ten tournament. What if they play them again? I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, you tell me, what do you think here?
Well, what I saw, oh my God.
Here we go. Here it is. Let's see here. He's talking shit to him. The guy touches his arm. I mean, it's not like the coach.
Well, I like his odds in that fight too.
Oh yeah. Well, no, and they kept saying that he put his hands on me. He gracefully touched his arm. I'm like, come on, man. That's ridiculous.
He threw the first punch. That's all that matters. That's the guy who threw the first punch.
Well, and he punched somebody different. He didn't punch the guy that he was talking to. And look at this. I mean, it looks like the Malice in the Palace.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, the fight.
Oh, I remember Indiana and Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. This is just not good for college basketball. College basketball is such a great sport and such a great thing. And this is the time of year where college basketball gets to shine. And this is what we're watching, a punching match. I mean,
and look, his players are holding him back.
Yeah. The kids are doing what they're supposed to do,
right?
And he's over there still yelling and getting held back. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is. And
but I just thought we should show it since we're talking about it. Why not actually show what happened? I mean, they're trying to, I don't know if you noticed, but they're running the credits at the bottom. They're about to go to commercial and go away, but then this happens.
Oh yeah, they really, and they said, I watched the game. I like Wisconsin. I root for Wisconsin, but it was Wisconsin. Hey, they beat the crap out of him, like you said. In the last 30 seconds, they went to their bench, and he kept pressing.
How do these kids only get suspended a game? Watch them. They're throwing fisticuffs. I mean, this is a full blown brawl. And the kids were what, suspended 1 game or something?
It's
a bad look.
It's another situation where the NCAA does not have the guts to get involved and do the right things, you got to punish. The next time this happens, now we have a precedent. Okay, this is what happens. You get suspended for a game. Okay, it's suspended for a game. I'll pick and choose my spots.
Yeah.
So.
Ridiculous.
It is. So let's get back to the NFL. Majors, a lot of major things going on. I don't know if we're talking now about the tags for keeping the guys on the teams and quarterbacks who's moving. I want to talk a little bit about the quarterbacks who may be moving tonight and where we think they're going to be heading and who really should be heading in different directions. And let's start right at the top. We've talked about it many times. Aaron Rodgers. He sent out, I guess, a meme this week that had everybody kind of speculating. I looked at it. I don't know what it says or means, but what do you think about the Aaron Rodgers rumors?
Well, I listened to his interview today on the Pat McAfee show, which, how Pat McAfee makes millions of dollars off of wearing a tank top and talking garbage, I'll never know, but good for him. But I don't know. I just, he says one thing, but does another. He's, talking to Pat McAfee and he's like, I don't want hold anybody hostage, and I want to get this resolved as quickly as possible. But then he doesn't do it. I mean, the whole thing was he said that he wanted to have a decision made by, the day that the franchise tags could be placed, which today was the first day. I mean, the Packers could go and tag Devontae Adams right now. Right. They're not going to do that because they actually have some class, but he's coming out in the media and talking about it. Like, if you really want to get something done and you really want to, not make it all about you, then go get it done and don't say anything. Don't go on a radio show and talk about it. And, he just wants everyone to talk about him. That's all he cares about. He loves attention. He loves being in the spotlight. He loves everybody. He's all about me, 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 as they say in Sherlock Holmes. He's all about me, 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 isn't he? He is. And you know what? He's good. But this guy's got one Super Bowl in his entire career, and he can't even get back to another one. And to be honest, they always blame the defense. But this year, the defense played amazing. And it was him who couldn't get him across the goal line. I think it's time for him to move on. He needs to go to another team. I don't care where it is. He can choose. It's his call. But he should tell him that he doesn't want to play there anymore. He wants to get traded, or shut up and stay there. But I think it's time for him to move on, and I think he should, do it already. I don't understand why we have to talk about it for 8 months.
You know why? Because that's what we become. We are amateur GMs. And that's, I tell you, I think, I think these kids that play these video games, I think they'd rather see what super teams they can come up with than play the actual game. And I think that's what we're creating. Next, the rumor, I don't see where this rumor really goes. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson would fit in a lot of different places. But what is your Pete Carroll? You're towards the end of your career. What quarterback are you going to go with if you don't have Russell Wilson there?
Nobody. Russell Wilson signed a 4-year, $140 million contract in the spring of 2019. He's still under contract. I don't understand where he thinks he's going. Whether he's happy or not, he signed the deal, and they're not going to trade him. I mean, they don't want to do a complete rebuild. They're already going to have to kind of do a rebuild a little bit right now. Do you think they want to start over at the quarterback position? No way. Pete Carroll's over 70 years old. How many more years is he going to be coaching? I don't know, but they're not going to trade Russell Wilson. So I don't even know why he's on this list or why we're even talking about it. He will be in Seattle next year, in my opinion. I just don't see what package could you put together to even get him. I don't see it happening. I think he's staying put.
And if you're a quarterback, where are you going to find a better set of wide receivers to throw to?
That's a great point. And I didn't even bring that up, but Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. I mean, I don't know what else he wants. They pretty much have built the offense around Russell Wilson in Seattle. They've given him a number of weapons. They've tried to give him a number of running backs, so they all keep getting hurt. But, he's got a pretty good setup as it is right now. And like you said, those weapons are amazing. Tyler Lockett, Freddie Swain, DK Metcalf. They drafted D. Eskridge last year early in the draft out of Western Michigan. So I don't know why he's unhappy.
And I mean, the other thing, it's not the Seahawks' fault or Pete Carroll's fault that the Rams have gotten better, the 49ers have gotten better, and the Cardinals have gotten better over the last 6 or 7 years and caught up with the Seahawks. What I mean? They're in one of the toughest divisions.
I don't know whether he feels like because he's in Seattle that he's doesn't get the publicity that he wants because he's got this, famous wife and he wants to be just as famous as her. I don't know, but I don't get it. I mean, they do everything he wants. He's one of the highest paid players in the NFL. And to be honest, last year was not his best year. I mean, I know there was the injury with the finger, but he wasn't playing that great before the injury. And when he came back, he was even worse. So I don't see where he thinks he's got all this,
abuse.
I don't know why he thinks he's getting abused, and I don't know why he thinks he's got all this leverage to force the team to do whatever he wants. It was not his best year, is my point.
And the other thing is, he had one of the most loyal fan bases up there that you'll ever find, which is ridiculous when I leave there. I mean, they are good. They're a good fan base to play before, from what I hear.
Yeah, so. Yeah, no, they are. They're the 12s are crazy, and he had pretty decent numbers as far as touchdown interception ratio was pretty good. He completed over 60% of his passes. It wasn't horrible. My point was, this was not his best year, as far as winning games. They finished the year 7-10, and there was a lot of close games where they could have gone either way, and Russ couldn't get it done. So I just don't think this is a year to be, screaming about what you want.
Now, we've talked about him all year long. He's still a mystery, but I guess there's some stuff going on the legal end with Desean Watson. I guess there's some kind of hearing going on with some of his legal problems or something that I hear right in the papers.
Yeah, there was one of the judges ruled that he's going to have to provide testimony for under oath testimony for at least 8 of the accusers. So 8 of the cases that have been filed against him, he's going to have to provide some sort of testimony. He's going to have to answer questions, basically like in a deposition type atmosphere. But I'm still so confused as to what the holdup is. I mean, this guy has either done something or he hasn't done something. There's been investigations done by the police. There's been investigations done by the NFL. I have a hard time believing they haven't found out anything.
And it is Roger Goodell playing some kind of a game. And when you think about the mess that the Houston Texans have been for the past 18 months, it's a shame for that fan base that they're left down there between the coaching uproars, between the fact they lost, J.J. Watt and a bunch of their other great players over the last 2 years. And now they have they're maybe the greatest quarterback in the team's shortest history, sitting on a bench getting paid, $30 million a game for nothing.
Yeah, that was what bothered me. This guy made $18 million last year to not play football. And that, whether lawsuits or no lawsuits, that really bothered me, because even before the lawsuits began, we heard that Desean Watson was unhappy and he had basically told the Texans that he was never going to play there again. And then all of a sudden the lawsuits came out and the timing of it was all weird. And then now here we are, year later, and we're still at the same point. So I just don't understand why he's being allowed to hold this team hostage. And to be honest, I feel bad for Coach Pauly. I feel bad now for Coach Lovie Smith, who's trying to get this thing turned around and trying to, get this team back on track, and nothing's going to happen until they deal with this.
What it makes you feel and appreciate more is Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
Matt Stafford didn't say a word, suffered silently in Detroit for 13 years, getting his butt kicked, finally wins a championship, but never said anything. Never said anything derogatory about the Lions, never said I'll never play here again, and finally got rewarded for it. And then you got Desean Watson at a time when he's being, accused of 22 different charges of sexual assault, saying, I'm not going to play for you anymore. Huh? What?
Well, yeah,
you may not be. You might be in the new edition of The Longest Yard.
Yeah, Paul Crew.
Exactly.
The next Paul Crew. But see, that's what I don't understand is what all happened that got Desean pissed off, because it was my understanding that he was mad that they didn't talk to him about the GM hire and talk to him and allow him to give input on the coaching hire and all this stuff, when I'm really like, that's not really the quarterback's job. I mean,
no, it's not.
I don't know anywhere where they ask the quarterback who you want to hire for the general manager position. I just, that's not usually done.
Well, you go to nine Super Bowls like Brady, and maybe you get a little bit of being GM for a while. But
yeah, I mean, accomplish something, and then maybe you'll have input on the front office moves. But yeah, I don't know.
Kirk Cousins sitting around there. I don't know if Minnesota's going to get rid of him. That's another one. Who are they going to bring in? It's an ideal place for a quarterback to go with the weapons they have. And Kirk Cousins has not shown the guy that can, move the needle up there. He's only got 1 year left on his contract, though. So who's going to make a big deal for him? I mean, I've heard floated around the Browns would be a good place for him to land. I don't know where else you could land with him that makes sense. And he needs to go to a team that's ready to win. But who's Minnesota going to bring in to replace him?
Yeah, they have no one on the roster. And that's the thing that people aren't really talking about here is there's no one on the Vikings roster, and there's no quarterbacks in this draft that are ready to start immediately. So the only way to, move Cousins is if you're going to get another veteran in, which isn't really going to happen. I mean, they're not going to get a veteran that's better. I mean, and one guy that's not on our list here that's being talked about a lot today is Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up later. Yeah, definitely. But we'll go into him.
Yeah,
right
but
now.
I heard today this one guy called in on the NFL radio that I was listening to, and he wanted to get rid of Kirk Cousins and bring in Mitch Trubisky. And I'm like, what? That's the worst idea I've ever heard. I mean, and maybe Mitch is better now. Maybe Mitch will be better. Maybe Mitch deserves a chance to compete. But the host of the show started saying, I could see Mitch fitting in better, in New York, where he could go in and compete against Daniel Jones. And I think that no one's just going to hand a job to Mitch Trubisky. I think he's going to have to earn it. And, I don't know what they're doing in Minnesota, but I think that Kirk Cousins is going to stay right where he is, in my opinion.
I'll tell you, being the backup quarterback is a great situation to be in anyways, because you're always the most popular guy in town. But even after you've screwed up as much as Trubisky, I hear another one that's out there that they're all going crazy for is Marcus Mariota now. I mean, we've seen these guys, and yeah, like you said, maybe they've learned by sitting. Maybe they've improved. But are you ready to just give them the keys to the kingdom and just say, okay, here, you take over, especially if you're the Minnesota Vikings, who, in the right situation, especially if Aaron Rodgers leaves, that whole division is upside down. Yeah. I mean, you might even see the Detroit Lions make a move with a Jared Goff and what Campbell got out of that team last year, how hard they played for him, even though they didn't win a lot. You might see some movement in that division. So why would you bring in a question mark? It astounds me.
Yeah, I think as far as Trubisky and Mariota goes, I think both those guys have potentially earned the right to go compete for a job somewhere, but I don't think either one of them is just going to get the job handed to them. I think New York is a good spot for either one of those guys to go in case Daniel Jones isn't ready, if the neck is still a problem, or to push Daniel Jones and potentially take the job from him if they perform.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still holding out hope that I want Teddy Bridgewater. I want a veteran to come in there. I don't want question marks. I want a guy.
I mean, Mariota's done just as much in this league as Teddy Bridgewater has. I mean, Mariota led the Titans to the playoffs multiple times, and he's a guy. I mean, I think he's just as good as Teddy Bridgewater, if not better.
I don't know. There's something about Bridgewater I like a little bit more. I like him a little bit more in the locker room. I like him a little bit more to be in that settling influence that the Giants, I think, need. But we can go into that as we get closer. Carson Wentz looks like he's on his way out of Indianapolis after 1 year. How short a honeymoon that was. You said it all year long. Even though his stats overall do not look good, he finds a way to have his worst moments at the worst moments for a team. But he still is semi-attractive to teams. I'm here in Pittsburgh. I'm here in Tampa Bay. I'm hearing, other teams that are interested in this guy. Washington, everybody. He reminds me so much of these guys that everybody think Jeff George. Everybody thinks they can straighten him out, and I don't know if he can straighten this guy out.
I mean, this year wasn't as bad as the previous year. I mean, if you think about 2 years ago in Philadelphia, it was a train wreck. He couldn't throw the ball to his own team. It was a disaster waiting to happen. And this year, honestly, it wasn't as bad, but was it because he played better, or was it because they had one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best running back in the league, after Derrick Henry got hurt, and Jonathan Taylor? I mean, this guy was averaging 6, 7, 8 yards a carry in multiple games and was pretty much unstoppable. And I think really, Frank Reich did a tremendous job hiding Carson Wentz's deficiencies. And then, the end of the year happens, and they're basically in line to make the playoffs, and Wentz, falls apart. So I think that's maybe why the Indianapolis Colts are potentially wanting to move on from him. But I don't know. The problem is there's more teams that need a quarterback than there are quarterbacks. Okay. So that's where the biggest issue lies here. We got the Saints, we've got the Steelers, we've got the Buccaneers, we've got the Panthers, we've got Washington football team, or the Commanders, whatever you want to call them. All those teams need somebody to be a starter right now. And there's not enough guys to fill those spots. So some of these dudes are going to get jobs, whether or not they deserve them.
Yeah, because this is not a good quarterback draft. And as we talked about at the beginning of last year, the missing backup quarterbacks throughout the league. As we talked about the Jets, we talked about the Giants, we talked about how many teams did we talk about say, man, if their quarterback goes down, they got nothing. And look what happened to the Giants. They went about as far down the list as you can go, and they had nobody. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny how we've gone in the last 4 years from seemingly having too many quarterbacks to not enough quarterbacks. And I don't know where it happened. I know there's been some retirements. You lost Philip Rivers, you lost Roethlisberger, you lost Brady, you lost Eli Manning, guys that were consistent starters who never really got injured. Roethlisberger had a couple of bad injuries in his career, but Rivers, Manning, Brady always showed up every week. They were in the starting lineup. So I mean, you see those kind of guys go, and that's big holes in 3 different cities right there. So it's weird how now we're looking around, and it looks like it's like almost like musical chairs in the NFL. When the music stops, see who sits down in what city.
This is exactly how I described it, as the quarterback musical chairs in the promo. But the thing is, as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, that was something that was brought up today, that they don't see him retiring, because if he was to retire, he'd be going into the Hall of Fame in the same class as Tom Brady. And they're like, there's no way that he's going to share the spotlight or be in the shadows while Tom Brady is getting inducted in the Hall of Fame. So there's no way that he's retiring this year. I mean, you already got Ben Roethlisberger. You already got Tom Brady, potentially Gronkowski. And there's a lot of guys that retired this year that could potentially be going in the Hall of Fame right at the same time. And there's no way Rodgers is going to want to do that at the same year.
Here's another one that hit the list that makes no sense. It's Kyler Murray. I just think it's a stupid thing. I think he ended the season. Maybe he's being a little bit of a spoiled brat. Maybe he's got a little problem there with the fact that he's getting blamed for everything that happened in Arizona and how they failed in the end. Something has to be done with him, the way he wears down during the season, though. That there's definitely a symptom of a training situation, or they've got to take some pressure off him running the ball where he's not getting so beat up. And, by the 10th game of the season, he's done. But I don't see Kyler Murray going anywhere.
What have you seen from this guy that leads you to believe that, you would want to bring this guy in as your franchise quarterback? I mean, I haven't seen anything, in my opinion, that would lead me to want to get rid of, say, Kirk Cousins and bring in Kyler Murray. I mean, Kyler Murray's good. I think he's shown flashes, but he hasn't been able to put together an entire year where he can, lead his team deep into the playoffs. Now, they did win a playoff game this year against the Cowboys, which, to his credit, he got a playoff victory under his belt. But I'm not ready to anoint him as one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league or anything like that. I think he needs to prove himself a little bit more. And and why he's unhappy with the Cardinals, I'm unsure of. I don't know.
He's really guilty of everything that they accuse Lamar Jackson of being.
Yeah.
Can't throw it from the pocket. No, he can't throw it from the pocket. I mean,
no.
Yeah, it's like he's got all the. It's like everybody forgets who they're talking about when they're talking about the quarterback. They think, oh no, well, we're talking about Kyler, not Lamar Jackson. So, but I don't see him going to another place. And the next guy up is the guy that's I think the most intriguing. The places I think the Colts are the perfect place for him, and that's Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, I don't see him in Pittsburgh. I don't see him being what the philosophy in Pittsburgh is. He's a, how can I say it? He's not the big strapping quarterback that makes it in Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? He's kind of a finesse guy. He's a play action pass guy. I just see him. He fits more in the mold of New Orleans, more in the mold of the Colts. Inside too, where he won't have to worry about the wind and the rain and the snow and everything else. What do you think about Garoppolo?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely at the top of the list for somebody who is going to be moved. I mean, as I mentioned, I don't think Russ is going anywhere. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going anywhere, and I don't think that Kyler Murray is going anywhere. However, I do think that probably they're going to move on from Garoppolo. I think when you draft somebody third overall and you don't play them pretty much the entire first year, except for when you have to because of injury, I think in year two, you're going to have to start going down that road. So I think they're going to probably move him. And I think there's a lot of places that would want him and that he could go to. I think he's an upgrade in Carolina over Cam Newton and over Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I think Carolina is a real potential landing spot for him. I also think Washington is another spot where he could go as far as a good spot for him with a team that could win around him. I mean, that's a place that's got good defense. They didn't play as well as they would have liked last year, but they've still got a good core of defensive players. They've got a good coach in Ron Rivera, and they're starting to add weapons. So I think Washington's a good spot for him. I think that Carolina is a good spot for him. And I think either one of those would be to his benefit to go to.
And next, your man, Jameis Winston. I think he'd be smart to go back to New Orleans. I mean, I just think that it's a made. You got a new coach there, kind of semi-familiar with him, even though he's a defensive coach. The offensive team knows him. I think the best place for him is in New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans really worked out for him. I think he was playing good football. He was winning some games. He was throwing the ball to the right team. I think he was showing a lot of maturity. The problem there is that, Sean Payton's gone. And I think that, that was one of the reasons that he went there. I think that was one of the reasons that he stayed there was he wanted to, play under Sean Payton. So, I don't know where Jameis's head is at. But I do know that the Saints are in horrible cap situation. They're $75 million over the cap right now. So it's not like they have tons of money. And Jameis Winston's a free agent, so he can sign wherever the hell he wants to. And I think the Saints are going to be hard-pressed to get Jameis. I think they're going to have to go after one of these other guys that's less money. And that's why I don't see him going back to New Orleans, because New Orleans has no money to sign anybody. I mean, they're going to restructure contracts. They're going to release people. They're going to cut people. But they're going to have to do that just to get under the cap. They're not. That's before they start paying anybody. They're going to have to start cutting people. So I just don't know if financially they'll be the ones that'll be able to pay Jameis what other teams are going to offer him.
Well, do you think New Orleans will stay with Taysom Hill? Say, we got him under contract. We might as well just keep this guy.
I think they'll keep Taysom. I think that this is also a potential spot for Wentz. I think this is a potential spot for Trubisky. I think this is a spot for Mariota. This is somewhere where I think one of these second-tier guys is going to be brought in at a lower price tag. Just not that Jameis Winston's the greatest quarterback, but I think that somebody's going to be willing to offer him a little bit more than what the Saints can pay. So I think they may keep Taysom and keep him in the quarterback mix. And I think they'll bring in somebody else as well to compete with him, because I do not think they're going to roll with Trevor Siemian out there. That guy sucks.
We all know that. One guy that's on this list, but I think it's time for him to retire, is Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
I think
it's over. I haven't heard anything about, where he's at right now, but all intents and purposes, this was a big time injury. I mean, you got to remember this happened in week 1, and he never, even considered coming back this year. So I think it may be the end, and it's a really, really sad story in my opinion, because this was supposed to be the time where he was the guy. This was the one time where he was the starter, and there was nobody even really competing with him. They didn't have, a Tua, a guy that was drafted in the top 5 that was going to be waiting in the wings. It was supposed to be Fitzpatrick's team, and that's why I feel so bad for him. I hope that he can come back. I hope that he can play, but I just, let's be honest, this guy was over 36 years old before the injury, so I think he's going to have a hard time making it back.
Well, and to me, I think he made the most out of a career that no one thought would happen. I mean, he came out of Harvard, wasn't on anybody's board, but he stuck around, played for a lot of places,
made a lot of money,
and brought some excitement. And when he was with the Jets that year,
yeah,
I mean, he when he was in there, it's not like he stunk up the place. I mean, he did a good job for the most part. He was at best a 500 quarterback. He was not going to get you to the Super Bowl most likely, but in the right situation, he could make you a playoff contender. He never had the right situation to get him into the playoffs. So he did make the most of it. Now we got to look at some other teams that where their fan base isn't exactly happy. Got to start with the Browns, man. I root for Baker Mayfield, but I'll tell you, this guy can never go into a season comfortable. It seems he played through injury last year. You and I talked about this at length. Should have been benched when the injuries first started happening. That's what really derailed the Browns season, along with a couple other things that the coach decided that I thought were wrong. But this is like a Baker or bust time for him. And I can't help it. I have a hard time saying that he doesn't deserve to be under a microscope, but man, he gets abused.
Yeah, he does. And they didn't do him any favors, as we discussed, letting him play through this injury. That he wasn't right. He couldn't step into his throws. He couldn't really play the way that he plays. I mean, let's be honest, Baker Mayfield's not a huge guy. He's kind of one of those dudes that uses his whole body to get any type of zip on the ball. So with an injury like he had, he wasn't able to do what he normally does, and it just didn't look right all year long. And they should have put him down, should have taken him off the field and put him on the shelf and played Case Keenum, who's a capable backup. But instead, they wore him out, and now have basically taken him out of the endearing hearts of the Cleveland fans, which really they were never really like that anyway. I mean, these people hate themselves half the time, so much less one of their players. So they didn't do him any favors. But at the same time, where are the Browns going to go for a quarterback right now? I mean, this is why I was talking about Jameis Winston getting money. Jameis Winston is the best quarterback in the free agent pool. I mean, let me just give you a couple names off this list. Ryan Fitzpatrick is now a free agent. He's probably never going to play anymore. Andy Dalton was done 3 years ago. He's on this list. Cam Newton was done 3 years ago. He's on this list. Tyrod Taylor, Jameis Winston, Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater, Mariota, Flacco, Trubisky, Tim Boyle, Blaine Gabbert, Chad Henne. I mean, I don't even need to go down.
No.
I mean, the only one that is a potential starter is Jameis Winston, in my opinion. And then Mariota and Trubisky are two guys that could potentially compete, as well as Bridgewater. But there's no big names that are going to just wow you in the free agent market. And the Browns have other things they need to do as far as people they need to address in the free agency world. So I think they're going to probably keep him around, pay that 5th-year option and just see what they've got with him this year. But, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. Like there wasn't pressure last year. There's going to be even more on him this year to perform and to lead this team. But I think he can do it, man. I mean, this is a guy that, won 12 games the year before and, is a guy that won the Heisman Trophy and played for the national championship. I mean, this is a dude that's got talent and he's got confidence in himself. And hopefully Cleveland didn't kill it all and, stomp all the confidence out of him, because if he's got any left, I think he'll be all right.
Not to get into the personality wise, but I mean, we could both throw this up there. And Joe Burrow and Baker Mayfield come off as cocky. They can come off as cocky. But why does Joe Burrow's cockiness play and Baker Mayfield's cockiness doesn't play?
I don't know. That's a great question. Joe Burrow's just the small town boy with just that the look of him. He just looks like the kid that everybody likes, and he's the hometown boy. And I don't know. I guess he's just kind of, his demeanor is very calm, cool, and collected, and just everybody likes him. And he comes off as a really nice, calm, cool, collected dude. And Baker, some people he rubs the wrong way, just with some of the things he's done, like when he played at Oklahoma and he stabbed the flag down in the ground, and, it's just the way that he, his interviews and how he's in all the commercials. And I don't know. I can't really answer that question because I don't know the answer, but I believe that it's just the way, it's perception. Perception is people's reality. And some people perceive him as a little cocky guy, that it isn't as good as, he thinks he is. But I think he's plenty good to lead this Cleveland team. And they had a lot of problems this past year, and he wasn't the only one of them.
I mean, it's just like their stories are kind of similar. I mean, not exactly similar, but both, Burrow came out more highly recruited. Baker not recruited at all. He becomes the freshman of the year of the Big 12 at Texas Tech, and they say, no, we're not going to give you a scholarship. So he sits out a year, goes to Oklahoma, beats out Landry Jones, 3-time All Big 12 quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, and yada, yada, yada. It's the same. It's kind of the same narrative, maybe a little bit different, of guys that weren't originally appreciated that turned themselves into Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. But Baker gets you would think because he's the shorter guy, overcoming more stuff and seemingly overcoming more stuff, he'd get a little bit more. But I mean, people just don't like him. I'm like, he's one of those guys I just sit there and go, what did he ever do? I mean, did he sleep with your sister or what?
Yeah, it's just the way he comes off sometimes, and the way that he kind of runs his mouth occasionally, and he does come as cocky. I mean, Joe Burrow, I think, comes off more as confident than cocky, and it's just the way that they're perceived. But I think winning solves everything, and
it does. It's the ultimate deodorant.
It is. 2 years ago, no one gave a shit. And they loved Baker, and he was on. That's why he's on every commercial now, because they won. And hell, people could care less what he says if you win in Cleveland. I mean, that's all they care about, is if they want to have a winner. And the Browns have been starved for winning for a long time. So if he can right the ship, if he can get healthy, if they can get some receivers that want to just catch the ball and not run their mouths, I think he'll be all right.
Well, one of them's out of town. They won't have to worry about him coming back. The last place to talk about is the Buccaneers, because I heard Blaine Gabbert might be the best, or Gabbert, however you say it, might be the best option for the Buccaneers. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. If you're going with Blaine Gabbert, Arians should retire, like we talked about the other night, because he's not going anywhere.
Well, that's the thing, too, is that Blaine Gabbert's a free agent also. So, there's no guarantee that he's going to be on that roster either. I mean, I guess the one thing Blaine Gabbert has going for him is that he knows the offense. That's the only thing he has going for him, because he hasn't played in years. He sucks when he has played. So I don't see they're not going to roll into the season with Blaine Gabbert. I mean, I don't know where Trask is at,
Right.
but they did draft him a year ago, and he did, was on the roster at times and was on the practice squad and got to learn under Brady. And so, we'll see where he's at. But, I've heard a lot of people talking about Jameis Winston going back to Tampa. And, I guess that could be a spot for him, if they're willing to bring him back. And if the price is right, I think that if I were Jameis, I wouldn't want to go back there. He took a lot of grief and took a lot of the blame, and then they were able to win without him. So that's not what I would do if I were him. But we'll see where it plays out. There's a lot of places for Jameis to go. As we mentioned, all these teams need a quarterback. The Saints, one of them, Steelers, Bucks, Panthers, Washington, just to name a few. They're all in need of a QB, so he's going to find a home, and I think he'd be better served finding a new one.
Yeah, but the one thing is he's a Florida guy. He also, the one thing is that he could, in the back of his mind, say, well, I'll have the what they went out and built for Brady as my weapons.
But will he, though? I mean, Goodwin's a free agent.
Yeah.
Coming off a tag. They're not going to tag him again. Fournette is a free agent. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are free agents right now that took a discount last year because they were trying to run it back. And that's the thing is this year, they're not going to take the discount. These guys are going to get paid. Jensen, here, let's just talk about it for a second. Godwin, free agent. Pierre-Paul, free agent. Jensen, who I already mentioned. Ndamukong Suh, Rob Gronkowski, Golston, Fournette, O.J. Howard, Blaine Gabbert, Ronald Jones, Richard Sherman, Giovanni Bernard. I mean, Carlton Davis. The list goes on, man. And I'm just not sure how many of these guys they're going to be able to bring back and, what kind of team they're going to have. So I just don't know if this is the best spot for Jameis, in my opinion.
I tell you, if I'm Pierre-Paul's agent, you know where I'm looking? Jets. Tweak the Giants cross town. They need a corner rusher in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
He would fit right in with the Jets, and he would fit right in with a team that's trying to take over the city from the Giants. And you bring back a guy who was their Super Bowl hero a decade ago.
Yeah, I mean, you would think at over 33 years of age, what does this guy have left in the tank? But I got to be honest, he had a lot left this past year. I mean, there was times where he was playing and he was injured, and he was still dominating out on the field. So, this is a guy that I would sign to at least a 1 or 2 year deal because I saw a lot out of him this year. And times when other guys were injured and JPP was forced to step up, he did it. And I would have no problem bringing him in for his leadership and for his ability.
Let's see. We got about 7 minutes left. I want to get into, my Giants a little bit for the last part of this. First of all, did you hear Joe Judge is going up to be Mac Jones's quarterback caddy?
I did hear that. I did hear he's going back to New England with his tail between his legs.
Yeah, he'll be all right. And before we get there, what do you think about Brian Flores signing with Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I don't know, man. This is a guy that I thought, he wanted to be a head coach, and I thought that's what he was upset about. Now he's taking a linebacker coach job. I don't know. I'm just confused by the whole thing. I feel like if he would have waited 2 weeks, he would have gotten one of those jobs. I mean, I feel like somebody would have hired him, and maybe he felt like he wasn't going to get the job. I don't know, but I just, I think it's weird that now he's going to be a linebacker coach. I don't know. I don't know what to think.
A lot of the narrative of the weekend was, about how he's fighting for everything and doing all the right things for the betterment of the NFL and for the chance for minority hires at coaching. But like you and I talked about, I don't know if he's the poster boy for it. He's the poster boy for a bad firing.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think he was going to get hired right away.
Yeah.
He just couldn't. I mean, the worst thing is about it is he strikes out of the Giants, but the Giants hire made sense. A GM that had worked with that coach before, of course he's gonna go with that guy he knows. I just don't see that's the one to go after. I think he would have been in Texas. I think he would have had the job over Lovie Smith. I think he would have had that Houston job. Personally, I think he had it. All he had to do was just go in there and be himself. I love Brian Flores. I would have taken Brian Flores as a Giant coach. I love him as a coach, and I think he deserves to be a head coach again. But the bigger guy who should be the man that's got this lawsuit going is Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, Eric Bieniemy, Jim Caldwell. If I was Jim Caldwell, I would be suing the NFL right now, because why that guy hasn't gotten another chance as a head coach is beyond me. This guy won 9 games a year minimum in Detroit, and they fired him, and no one's hired him since. And Detroit hasn't won more than 2 games in any year since then. So I don't understand what the hell is going on.
That's a great point, but at least he had a job. Eric Bieniemy can't get past the interview stage, and I mean, everybody around.
Well, that's my point. Is Jim Caldwell's proven himself to be a good head coach. So why is no one hiring him? That bothers me. Eric Bieniemy, maybe he's not head coach material. I have no idea.
Yeah,
but
true.
Jim Caldwell has proven to be a good head coach and has proven that he can get it done in the worst goddamn city in the NFL, in Detroit. So why no one else is giving him a shot, I have no idea. But if that guy filed a lawsuit, I would jump on the back of his campaign board and be cheering him on, because he has good reason to be upset. But Brian Flores was a head coach and was potentially going to get hired as a head coach again. So I'm not sure what he's upset about.
Why I understand if he's doing it for all the right reasons. I understand being upset. I'll give him that. He's fighting.
No. I mean, there's things to be upset about. There is call for change. I'm not saying there's not. There is, but he's not the one that I think should be bringing this out and be taking this on, because he could be coaching somewhere right now. In my opinion, had he not sued the league.
Well, the thing is that he could have been in Houston, hiring a bunch of minority coaches to be on his staff,
or New Orleans,
New Orleans, and promoting, these guys instead of we're a litigious society, and most people look at people who throw lawsuits and just get PO'd at them. Yeah. They're just mad because why are you doing that? I mean, we don't understand. You're a guy who had one of the 32 greatest jobs in the world as far as we're concerned as NFL fans. You got fired. Okay. People get fired every day. But I mean, I
understand why he's upset. That the firing was bullshit. I mean, we both know that. I don't think he deserved to be fired.
No.
They started off rough. Won the first game, lost 7, but then he won 7 in a row, and they were fighting for a playoff spot. They just happened to be in the same division with the Patriots and the Bills, and they lost out. But I don't think he deserved to get relieved of his duties. I just think he, had a bad taste in his mouth after, some of the interviews he went on, and also obviously dealing with that idiot who's the owner down in Miami.
That's the whole thing. That's the bottom line is, and we'll sign off here with that. Is the bottom line is that to become an owner in the NFL, you don't have to know anything about football.
You don't have to know anything about anything. You just have to be filthy rich, and being filthy rich doesn't make you smart, and it doesn't make you a good person. And we've certainly learned that. And I can see, potentially the Washington football team or the Commanders getting taken away from their owner, Daniel Snyder. And I could see the Dolphins owner getting kicked out of the league too, because it sounds like there may be a call to do both at both places.
How much do you think? Well, it all depends. This isn't like trying to kick Jerry Jones out. It's not like trying to kick the Maras out. I think Snyder and Ross are sitting there in the wind, and I think that Goodell would make them the sacrificial lambs if it calms the public opinion down a little bit and gives them some good faith at some point, I guess. But we'll just have to see. What we're going to start doing over the next month or so, getting ready for the draft, And we're going to take the teams one by one and maybe two by two, depending on how we'll divide up the shows, and start looking at what they need, what they should do, and what we think can fix them. So, guys, get ready to tune into that. Everybody tuned in tonight. What do we got going on for man coverage this Sunday?
We're off this Sunday.
Oh,
I'm gonna be out of town. My grandfather George Frank, the man, the myth, the legend, is turning 94 years old. So
nice.
I'm taking off Thursday and heading up to Ohio. So we're gonna take off this week, but we're gonna come back the week after, and we're gonna have a really good show. We're gonna have a couple of NCAA football family is going to come on the show. That a father who played in the NCAA, played for Minnesota, and now has 3 boys that are all going to play college football. And we're going to have him on the show and hopefully have all the kids and just talk about, life as a family playing college football. So should be pretty cool.
And tomorrow night again, I'll be hosting trivia at Bank House in Norwalk. If you want to come by, didn't come by, we had a good crowd last week. Come on down. We prizes, drink specials, good food, and a lot of fun in trivia night. And I might have a few more of those popping up pretty soon, and a couple more places. So, looking forward to that tomorrow night. And we will be back next Thursday. And like I said, we're going to start taking a look at the draft, start looking at what these teams, maybe some free agency, and as we get ready, we have you all prepared for the draft. What do you before you go? What do you think? What's this thing going on with the combine? The guys are dropping out of the combine.
Well, they were trying to have like a bubble atmosphere at the combine, where basically once you checked in and got tested, you weren't allowed to leave. You weren't allowed to have like your nutritionist and your trainers and your agents and all those people there with you and around you. You were basically checking into like a camp that was in a bubble atmosphere. And a lot of the agents got pissed off because they want these guys speed coaches and their nutritionists and their weight training coaches and all these people that are their team to be allowed to be with them at all times. And so about 100 of them were going to boycott it if the rules weren't changed. Well, today the NFL changed the rules.
Oh, sure, you can do that for that.
And folded because they've already got some fights going on, and they're just like, F it, we're not going to fight this. Let's change it. So, and I kind of understand it. I mean, the rest of the country is not. There's some places that are still COVID protocols in place, but it's not like it was. And I think it was kind of ridiculous to try and force these kids to conform to all these rules. It didn't seem like it was a good fit.
Especially when a lot of them, especially the high profile ones, are just saying, I'm not going to go, or if I'm going to go, I'm not going to throw. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So, I mean, if you want to since it is such a big event for the NFL, I mean, I think they sell so much sponsorship for the NFL Network with that they can't afford to have, a bunch of no names showing up there.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is something they sell. They package it, they sell it, they sell advertising for it, they show it, on TV, they replay it, and they put ads with it. This is a year-round business now, and they don't want anything slowing down this money train. So they folded and dropped the restrictions. So.
All right. Well, we're going to say goodnight. We'll be back next Thursday. Happy birthday to Grandpa. Enjoy Ohio. How's the weather going to be?
It's supposed to be a snowstorm on Thursday.
Oh,
so
great.
Should be
driving up?
Should be. Yeah.
At least your daughter gets to see some snow.
Yeah. And my two-wheel drive car. Yeah, it should be great.
Oh, great.
So hopefully the storm will pass us by, but fingers crossed.
All right. Everybody have a good night. We'll see you next week.
Adios.